The U.S. Senate, bipartisan, Mike Lee, Bernie Sanders, Chris Murphy, that calls for a suspension of U.S. support to the Saudi-led coalition. And I wanted to know, some are saying it will come to a vote when your prince visits Washington next week. And I wanted to know, I assume you think it's a bad idea, but if you could comment on it, why, if you think it reflects something of a loss of support among the American people to the coalition, what would you say to the sponsors of the bill?
Well, I would not want to comment on an internal affair of the United States and the initiatives in Congress, especially if the bill is at an early stage of being debated. We have a strong relationship with the United States. We enjoy full support from the United States and from the international community, I might add. The unanimity of the Security Council behind this statement that reiterates support for the GCC initiative, for Resolution 2216, for all the bases under which Saudi Arabia and the rest of the coalition are acting in Yemen. I think this signifies continued support from the United States and all the international community.
The logic of the bill seems to be that the U.S. support, the fueling of flames of the planes, is leading to the needless death of children, women, spreading of cholera. That seems to be the logic of it. And I guess so rather than the bill, how would you respond to that?
Well, the needless death of children and the suffering of the Yemeni people is caused by the rebels, by the Houthi rebels, who have hijacked the country, who have taken over the state institutions by force, outside the scope of the legitimacy, outside the scope of what was agreed by the Houthis themselves. That is what is causing suffering to the Yemeni people. The coalition has launched a humanitarian initiative at this point of time, which includes numerous activities in cooperation with the United Nations aimed at reducing the suffering of the Yemeni people throughout Yemen. And we are certain that that will have a positive impact. Yes.
There's a stakeout by Saudi Arabia, but somehow the UN security can't. Now, only last night, Saudi Arabia sponsored an event in the delegates' entrance for Women's Rights Day. Yes, you heard right. A Saudi-sponsored event for Women's Week. And the UN hierarchy, the Secretary General was out of town, or he would have been there, certainly. But the deputy was there, and the Undersecretary General for Department of Public Information, the global communicator. They were there at great length, eating canapes and praising the Saudis. Can't find time to have a press rule. Now let's focus on this, shall we? Intercity Press was evicted by the UN for covering corruption, and now its pass doesn't work on the turnstile. So our way into the Security Council is this door here, which is supposed to be open. You can have a by invitation only stakeout. You'd think that the Department of Public Information would say to security, if they're spending all this money, that you're supposed to open the stakeout to all journalists when the Saudi ambassador is going to be speaking about slaughter in Yemen. But perhaps the goal is, as we've now seen, with various statements from UN security, you can allow your political views. Let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Where is the fine Saudi ambassador? Is he down in with his posters of women's rights in the delegates' entrance? Is the DSG still down there? Noshing on salmon, canapes? Let's see. Let us see. The door is locked. And here, the Saudi ambassador. And yet, the Department of Management, they're on the move. Those are the guys who like to retaliate. Wait, he's begun. He's beginning. Let's see if we can just hear him through the glass. Can we hear him? I don't know. Let's try again. Wait a moment. How can it be? How can it be that you're having a stakeout with the door locked? Hey! Well, there's how the UN works. Locked doors and a Saudi stakeout. It's wonderful. Hand-picked journalists. Oh, we have this. Wait a second. The Yemen ambassador is there? Let's check it out. Let's just check it out. Oh, wait a second. It's going to be difficult to get through to the Saudi ambassador stakeout. Let's see. Huh. Wait a moment. Here we are. The stakeout is taking place, but unlike other people that can just go through. Yeah. There's a stakeout taking place. Sorry. Oh, well. You would think so. I'm going to the stakeout there. The Saudi ambassador is speaking. Okay? I'm a journalist, and there's a stakeout. Nobody has to host me. There's a stakeout taking place there. Okay, great. Thanks, host. The host with the most. I'm sure I'll get in trouble.
We were back in the Mads days, back in them.
Yeah.
So I used to be. So
Yeah.
I know you really well.
Yeah, thanks.
Do your job. I know you will.
Bill of the U.S. Senate by bipartisan Mike Lee, Bernie Sanders, Chris Murphy that calls for a suspension of U.S. support to the Saudi-led coalition. And I wanted to know, some are saying it will come to a vote when your prince visits Washington next week. And I wanted to know, I assume you think it's a bad idea, but if you could comment on it, why, if you think it reflects something of a loss of support among the American people to the coalition, what would you say to the sponsors of the bill?
I would not want to comment on an general affair of the United States.
Hello.
You were at our event yesterday.
I was. Yeah, it was interesting. The poems were good. The poems I'm a big fan of.
You have a card, do you?
I do. Let me show me. Might this result in further surveillance? We don't know. But we'll end as we began, here. Now, honestly, it's not supposed to require a minder to get here when there's a stakeout. The FBI is not telling anyone. They're more focused on censorship than on coverage. Hand-picked questions for hand-picked killers. That's today's United Nations. Okay, well, here. It's in the media alert. Thank you. Because it's in the media alert. Thank you very much. Let's see if we have any speeches. I'm going to shoot around the outside. Okay, now we have the clay issue. So there was about 15 minutes there before we jacked it up. Let's see, I don't know if we've missed the speeches. This was described as a stop-by for the Deputy Secretary General, of course. What could be more Women's Week than a Saudi event? Look, there's the Saudi budget man. I'm going to put my stuff down over here, and we're going to check these out. Okay, we got some poems. Rebellious imaginations. It's so rebellious that you might end up jailed in a luxury hotel if you have the money. From her home that is fenced like a cell.
Thank you very much, Excellency. This is a real pleasure to be here. Since CSW started, there's been a wonderful energy in our halls all around. And I have to say that I saw as this exhibition was starting to be put up on a Sunday, and I was just trying to imagine what it was going to end up being like. And so really happy to see today that we have our two wonderful women, a sculptress and a poet. And when I go around reading some of the words, I have to say this is universal language for women. This is not just about Saudi women and what they say with their passion and their strength. It is really what we all feel and what we've been hearing in the different meetings that we've had, our aspirations, our rights, and just what we bring, and that we are a world that is losing half of its assets because we're not investing in them. And so thank you for bringing those words, the passion, the beauty of what we do, and who we are. And I think that this is inspiring for young people, for those who get a chance to see this all the way through this 2 weeks and take back with them the messages that you've left for us. I found it really unique, and I'm sure most of you did, when you looked at I didn't realize there was a relationship between the words and the sculptures, which is absolutely incredible. I think that's unique, and often we don't see that. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the poem is saying, but to see it translated into a sculpture gives it another meaning, and I think it most of it what can be. I wish I could quote a woman poet, but now I'm going to say, as Nelson Mandela said, it's always impossible until it's done. And today you have done us proud by bringing
Yes, harkening back to the Nelson Mandela lecture. Amid the mass killing in Yemen, amid the spread of cholera, amid the purchase of the Children in Armed Conflict list, this event, we don't blame the women and we don't blame the sculptures, but the UN officials that just get in line, we do blame. And they also censor the press that covers the Yemen side. Because the Department of Public Information makes it its business to ruthlessly censor, restrict. What do they do with inner city press? Threw it in the street, broke its computer. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Smash its computer and award its office to a no-show Egyptian state media. Probably a good friend of an event such as this. Now look, they're indistinguishable. The pastry and the sculpture. On this note, I leave you.